Yes, yes, you can start.
Hello Mingalaba, hello Mingalaba. Tini Tenoruye the CME Pono, Medical Education Program ne the Bido, the Pintin Nanganga, Tenor Karailo, Bettering ni Chimpa Nija, no Pintin Nanganga, Professor Jerome Se Tikozi ne, Tini Professor Pierre Mansat Toga, Tenoro CME program who set on my pite. You need Tenoro Pio Magaro, hand fracture ne, wound a jungle Pio Mapipa. Thank you very much. Welcome to the our webinar on the emergency and then CME program for the MOH NUG. And today, actually, Professor Jerome Sedigozi, you all know him because he's been there organizing all these education programs for a year now. And we have a regular program. Today program, there will be Professor Pierre Mansat going to talk about the hand fracture and wound. I would like to request that Professor Jerome Digozi, please introduce Professor Pierre Mansat. Jerome, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Professor Pierre Mansat. He's a friend of me, and he's working in Toulouse University Hospital. And he's the head of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery, Adult Orthopedic Surgery. It's a very big department. And he's also the president of the University Council section of orthopedic. He's very famous, of course, in France and also all around the world. He's very specialized in elbow and also hand surgery. So it's a pleasure for me. When I ask him to give the lecture, he say yes without any hesitation. So it's very important that he is here and he help Myanmar people. So thank you, Pierre, to give this lecture. And now you can share the screen and start. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your invitation, Jérôme and Professor So. So I'm going to start with my presentation. Okay, you can see the presentation well?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay, you can start.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk about hand trauma this morning. So hand trauma is quite very frequent. It's more than 1,400,000 accidents each year in France. So when you have a patient with a hand trauma, initial evaluation is quite important when the patient comes to the emergency unit. So you need to know and to determine the mechanism of the trauma, the time, the work-related trauma, but also the age of the patient, the work of the patient, the occupation, the dominant hand, the medical history of the patient. Is the patient has a risk factor like tobacco or diabetes? And very important to know the status of his tetanus vaccine. Then you need to evaluate the trauma or the wound at the hand. You need to look for deformation, malrotation of the fingers or dislocations. You have to look for hematoma, bruises. And in case of open injury, you have to define the type of wound lesion, the location on the palmar side of the hand or on the dorsal side of the hand. You have to look for the quality of the vascularity of the fingers, the status of the tendons, and the status of the nerve. And all this clinical evaluation must be performed before any anesthesia to avoid any problems for evaluation. When you have one lesion, like on this patient, you have to precise the location and the number of lesions, the associated contusion of the skin, of the tissue, loss of the skin substance, the possibility of contamination by a foreign agent, either a nail injury also, or is there an amputation of 1, 2, or more fingers, and the location of the amputation. Vascular lesion is more important for hand trauma. You know, the vascularization of the hand. You have a palmar arch, which is very important at the palm of the hand, and then from the palmar arch, you have different artery who goes to the fingers with collateral arteries on each side of each fingers. Skin recoloration time allow you to know if the lesion, the fingers, is still vascularized or not. On this picture, you see on the fourth digits that the color of the finger is different from the color of the other fingers. That means that this finger is not anymore vascularized. You can see this recoloration time at the fingertip of a nail region. Bleeding is another possibility when you have a wound. And when you have a bleeding, you need to do a compression bandage. There is an emergency when you see a devascularization like this, because you have to get good results. You have less than 6 hours to revascularize the finger in order to get a good result. So it's quite an emergency. Then you have to look at the nerve. You know, the different sensitivity territory at the hand. Here you have the palmar aspect of the hand. Here's the dorsal aspect of the hand with the 3 territory. In blue, the ulnar nerve territory on the palmar and dorsal aspect. In red, the median territory on the palmar aspect and dorsal aspect. And in pink, you see the radial territory. So you have to look at the different territory when you have a wound in order to find any involvement of the sensitivity territory. Usually when you have a wound and the anterior wrist, there is a potential injury of the median and ulnar nerve, and you have to look for this. On the dorsal part of the wrist, it's less important, and usually only the sensitivity branch of the radial and ulnar nerve can be involved. At the palm of the hand, it's more the common digital nerves, and at the finger is mainly the collateral digital nerves that can be injured. You have to look to this sensitivity evaluation with to look for paresthesia, dysesthesia, or most of the time complete anesthesia. You have to look at the finger of the hemipulp with 4 needles on each hemipulp of each fingers. Then after the vascularity and the nerve involvement related to the wound, you have to look for tendinous lesions. You know that there is some discrepancy between the wound and the lesions, depend of the position of the wound related to the finger during the injury. So you have to test each tendon with active motion. And when the hand is at rest on the table, you can look for the tenodesis effect or the loss of the tenodesis effect, like on this picture. You see all the fingers are flex, except the 4th fingers with no flexion of the distal interphalangeal joint that can be related to a section of the flexor digital profundus of these fingers. You have to know also that partial section of a tendon can give normal motion. The normal motion cannot exclude any lesion of a tendon. Again, there is no relation between the size of the wound and the injury under the wound. You see here on the 5th fingers a very small wound, and you see on this end the loss of the tenodesis effect on the PIP joint and on the DIP joint. That means that with this small wound, this patient had a section of both flexor tendons that we can see during surgery. So be careful to the size. There is no relationship between the size of the wound and the lesion beneath the wound. When we talk about tendons, there is an extensor tendon system as the dorsal aspect of the hand and flexor tendon system at the palmar aspect of the hand. So the extensor tendon system, briefly, is a dorsal system with some pulley, refraction pulley. The first is at the dorsal aspect of the wrists, is the dorsal retinaculum. Then on the dorsal side of the hand, the tendon are mostly individualized, but there are close relationship between the tendon with junctura that maintain close relation between the tendon in order to gate a great movement. There is also a common tendon extensor, but again, there is independency for the second digit and the 5th digit with a extensor proprius for these two tendons. Here are the descriptions of the extensor tendon system. You can see on each fingers, you see this extensor system with a tendon on the MCP of each finger with the sagittal bands that stabilize the tendon. Then you can find 3 bands with a central band on the on the intermediate phalange that at its insertion at the base of the intermediate phalange here. And this central band is essential for extensions of the PIP joints. And then you can find 2 lateral bands who take its insertion of on the distal phalange, and that's very important for the extension of the distal interphalange joint. So proximally is the tendon with sagittal bands. On the intermediate phalange, you get the central band, and on the distal phalange, you get the 2 lateral bands on the DIP joint. For the thumb, is a different system because you have extensor proprius longus tendons, and also you have extensor proprius brevis tendon and the abductor pollicis longus tendons. All these tendons can be evaluated during a clinical exam with usually extension against constraint, against resistance, as you can see here for all this, the aspect of the extensor system. You can ask for only extensions of DIP joint to test the distal aspect of the extensor system, mainly the lateral bands. If you want to test specifically the extensor index proprius and the extensor digit minimi, you have to ask the patient to do this movement, flexing their 3rd and 4th digit and extend only the index, the 2nd and 5th digit. For the thumb, you need to ask the patient for extension against resistance of the thumb or abduction against the resistance of the thumb to evaluate specifically the thumb tendons. The flexor system is a little more complex. The flexor system, it's two tendons, the flexor digital proprius, the flexor digital superficialis. You can see here the relationship between the two tendons. The flexor digital superficialis adds the insertion with two bands on the intermediate phalange and act as a flexor of the PIP joint, whereas the flexor digital profundus took the insertion on the distal phalange and flexed the DIP joint. The two tendons are related with vincula. Vincula is this system that add vessels inside and that can vascularize the tendon. And finally, the tendon are against the bone with maintained on the bone with pulley, and you have A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 pulley. But the two most important pulley to get a really good flexion is the A2 and A4 pulley. So when we do surgery for a wound at the palmar aspect of a finger, we have to maintain at least these two pulley intact or repair these two pulley. Here you can see the two tendons and the pulley system. You can see here the flexor digitalis superficialis with this division of the two band. We call that the chiasma. Then the profundus tendon goes through the chiasma to go distally to the distal phalange. And you can see here the vincula between the tendons. The flexor tendon system can also be tested with motion against resistance. You can test the flexor digitalis profundus of each finger while maintaining the finger in extension. You ask the patient to flex only the DIP joint. If you want to test the flexor digitalis superficialis, then you have to maintain all the finger in extension and ask the patient to flex the finger you want to test. And you can see here the finger is the finger is flexed with the FDA tendon. For the thumb, there is only one flexor, is a flexor proprius longus. So you ask the patient to flex the distal phalange of the thumb. So there is different area where you can find a wound on the hand, on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at the palmar aspect of the joint. So in zone 1, usually the wound is of good prognosis because there is only one tendon involved, is a flexor proprius profundus. And the risk of this wound in the surgery is the DIP joint stiffness. On zone 2, usually it's, we call that the no man's land. It's an area when you can find the two tendons. So when a wound in zone 2 had a bad prognosis because most of the time the two tendons are involved. And despite of repair or surgical repair, there is a big risk of adhesions and stiffness of the finger afterward. Zone 3 is a good prognosis in the palm. The only problem is sometimes possibility of blockage of the repair tendon at the A1 pulley, but the A1 pulley can be open. And finally, a wound in zone 4 and 5 at the wrist. The main prognosis is related to the associated lesion, like the injury of the median nerve, for example. So the strategy when you have a patient with end trauma and a wound, it's a surgical exploration of any wound located on a vascular, nervous, or tendon pathway, even in the absence of deficit. So each wound have to be explored. So you have three big cases. You can have a simple wound without deficit. You can have a simple wound with deficit, or you can have a complex wound. If you get a simple wound without deficit, then the patient or the wound can be explored under local anesthesia by a resident in orthopedic or a surgeon in the emergency department. If there is no lesions found during this exploration, then the wound is clean and closed. But if any doubt of lesion at this exploration of bad condition to explore this lesion, then the patient have to be driven to the OR to be explored by the hand surgeon. Exploration directly in the operating room by the hand surgeon is mandatory when you have a simple wound with deficit or, for sure, a complex wound. Exploration, if you do an exploration in the emergency department, you need asepsy, you need a local anesthesia, you need a traumatic small instrument, and the goal is first to pair and wash the wound. You can expand the wound with this small incision in, we call that Brunner or Brunner type of incision, to avoid the flex crease at the hand or at the dorsal aspect of the hand. The superficial wound suture usually use 4.0 PDS thread, simple suture, only one skin plan, bandage to be redone every 2 days, suture removal at day 15, and painkiller on demand, and non-systematic antibiotics. Antibiotic is not systematic if you had washed the wound and you have used antiseptic. When you have a patient with wound with deficit, you need X-ray evaluation to look at the bone. You can prescribe painkiller and antibiotics, preoperative assessment, leave on an empty stomach and anesthesia consultation, and you can wash with antiseptic and dressing to prepare the patient to the OR. Treatment principle of surgical wound of the surgical hand trauma is all in one surgery with immediate mobilization. That means that you have to repair all injured lesions at the same times to get an immediate mobilization postoperatively to avoid any stiffness of the finger. But at least if there is a big emergency and a lot of things to do on the very complex wound, you need a wound debridement, you need stabilize the bone, so fracture reduction and fixation, and at least vascular suture when there is problem of vascularization. Tendon and nerves are usually sutured immediately if no substance loss. Extensor tendons usually are sutured with a U type of suture and running suture to reinforce the repair. Flexor tendon are sutured with a specific suture using PDS 3.0 and a running suture of PDS 4.0. So 2 types of suture for each tendon to get maximum strength. And nerve, you have to use, especially at the finger, magnificent glass or microscope, and very small suture, monofil 8.0 or 9.0. Postoperative management after tendon repair. is immediate mobilization with dynamic splint. I will show you during usually 1 to 1.5 months. 1.5. After nerve repair, you need immobilization of the finger during 3 to 4 weeks. So there is sometimes problem because when you have a tendon, you need to mobilize to avoid stiffness, but when you have a nerve injury, you have to immobilize. So there is sometimes problems when you have both lesions of these two structures. So we're going to look at all this type of trauma for from the finger ligament sprain and dislocation, metacarpal fracture, tendon injury, vascular injury, nerve injury, nail trauma, loss of skin substance, amputation. All the pictures you will find are coming from this book, Chirurgie de la main, l'urgence, from Michel Merle and Gilles Dautel. So one of the most frequent trauma of the hand is MCP ligament sprain at the thumb. Usually is related to sports trauma, mainly ski, but other sports can injure the thumb. The patient complains of pain at the MCP joint, usually at the ulnar part of the MCP joint. When you test the finger, you can find a big laxity or a big instability. As you can see here, you have to do this test with comparison to the other side. Usually this laxity is related to the avulsion of the lateral collateral ligament. So the lateral collateral ligament can be avulsed from the proximal phalange, usually only with a ligament or sometimes with a piece of bone, as you can see here on the X-ray. The problem of this avulsion ligaments is sometimes the ligaments, as you can see on this figure, placed above the adductor of the thumb. And once you have this interposition of the tendon and the muscle, we call that the Stener effect. And when you have the Stener effect, the ligament cannot heal on the phalange, and you need surgery to fix this ligament. So this ligament has to be fixed when you have a Stener effect, and you can look at this Stener effect using ultrasound, and the ligament has to be repaired when you have here a piece of bone with the ligament. So usually it's just reinsertion of the ligament on at the base of the proximal phalange. You can use anchor, you can use pull-out type of suture, like on this picture, and then you immobilize the patient with this type of commissural splint. You can have also MCP dislocation, so it's another type of trauma. You can look here at the deformation of the thumb. You need an X-ray to make the diagnosis, and you see perfectly the dislocation. The problem of the dislocation of the thumb here is a volar plate interposition at the MCP joint that avoid in all type of reduction. Then there is you can reduce closely this dislocation. There is a maneuver that has been described. We call that the maneuver of Farbeuf. And the principle of this maneuver is to exaggerate the deformation, so to put the proximal phalange in hyperextension. Then you have to get a close bone contact between the metacarpal and the phalange. Here, close bone contact. Then you push the proximal phalange in flexion, keeping this bone contact, and then you flex the phalange and you have the MCP reduced. The goal of this maneuver is to avoid the interposition of the volar plate. After reducing this MCP, you need only a small immobilization for 3 to 4 weeks. So this maneuver of Farabeuf is very important in the case of this MCP dislocation. It can be performed under local anesthesia at the emergency department. PIP ligament sprain is very, again, common in sports. Usually it's just ligament sprain with edema. Sometimes you can find a piece of bone, usually is related to the avulsion of the volar plate. There is no need for surgery. You need only to protect the finger and to start mobilization. So we use this type of syndactyly to protect the finger and to move right away the finger. Usually this type of protection is prescribed for 4 weeks. So ligament sprain, PIP ligament sprain, very frequent. PIP dislocation is another common trauma. So again, you need X-ray to evaluate the direction of the dislocation. Most of the time it's a dorsal dislocation. You need to look at associated bone fractures. And when you have this evaluation, then you can reduce the dislocation under local anesthesia by simple traction. And then you have to test the stability of the finger. If the finger is stable, mainly in the frontal plane, then again, you need to protect the finger with this type of immobilization or protection that allows the patient to flex the finger, but to avoid hyperextension of the finger. And usually this type of protection is prescribed for 3 to 4 weeks. So again, no strict immobilization to avoid any stiffness, but protect mobilization. A special case is MCP dislocation of the second fingers. In this kind of dislocation, mainly in children, usually this dislocation is unreducible. Why? Because there is a penetration of the head of the second metacarpal into the flexor tendon and into the lumbrical muscle. And because of this penetration inside the tendon and inside the lumbrical muscle, there is no possibility of reduction, and the reduction has to be open in the operative room. You can see here the flexor tendon, you can see here the head of the metacarpal. So you need to release the tendon and the head in order to reduce this dislocation. So you have to remember at the second fingers the possibility of unreducible dislocation that have to be reduced in the OR. What about carpometacarpal dislocation? So usually this carpometacarpal dislocation is mainly located at the 4th and 5th fingers, but you can have more complex CMC dislocation related to car accident or in sports, it's mainly boxing. So it's quite easy to diagnose on X-rays. You need at least 2 views, AP view and lateral view, to make the diagnosis. You can use a CT when you have doubt on X-ray to precise your lesions. And you can see here a divergent CMC dislocation. You can see here dislocation dorsally with the 4th and 5th fingers. But dislocation can mainly be dorsal, but sometimes it can be palmar like on this picture. So it's easy to reduce under anesthesia in the OR when you see the patient very early by simple traction, and then you stabilize the dislocation with QY, percutaneous QY. Usually you don't have to open the wound. Only QY is sufficient to stabilize the wound. Sometimes if you have a fracture associated to the dislocation, you can use special screws, small screws, to stabilize the joint. This is a typical CMC dislocation at the fifth fingers. Is the equivalent of the Bennett fracture at the thumb. You have a small fracture is here at the articular part of the fifth finger, but because of the traction of the ACU tendon, there is a dorsal displacement of the finger. So it's again very easy. This lesion have to be reduced because it's articular lesions. If you do not reduce this type of fracture, you will have pain and post-traumatic arthritis. So you have to reduce this very simple by simple traction. You can reduce the dislocation and the fracture, and you can stabilize with two QY percutaneous under local regional anesthesia. Then we move to the metacarpal and phalangeal fracture. It is very important to remember that the hand had two palmar arches. One is longitudinal, like here, you can see here, and the other is transversal. The goal of this palmar arches is for the patient to be able to catch and to use their hand for object. And the second point is the harmonious finger convergence, when the patient flex all the finger with the convergence towards the scaphoid here. So when the patient lost the arches because of the fractures or this type of convergence, that means that there is a rotation into the metacarpal or phalangeal fracture that has to be reduced. When there is a metacarpal fracture non-displaced, is this type of immobilization that is needed, stabilizing the metacarpal in a slight extension of the wrist, but leaving the PIP and DIP joint free in order for the patient to move their fingers. We call that the Durand type of immobilization. When there is a displaced metacarpal fractures, it has to be reduced and then, if needed, stabilized. So you can use QR. It's very easy. You can use percutaneous QR when there is when you can reduce closely the fracture, but sometimes it's not possible to reduce closely the fracture, so you have to open. And then usually we use very small screws from 2 millimeters to 1.5 millimeters at the finger. You can use also small plates that allow you to reduce perfectly the fracture and to stabilize the different type of fractures. Here's an example. You can see some spirit type of fracture at the metacarpals with malrotation of the finger. So we choose to open the wound and stabilize with only screws because of the big spirit, and here with a plate. There is possibility to, when you have this type of fracture, mainly is on the fifth finger. Here on the picture is on the second finger, but you can reduce the fracture with this type of maneuver. We call that the jazz maneuver. By pushing on the head of the displaced fractures with the finger flex, you can reduce dorsally the head of the metacarpals. If it's stable, you can only use a splint after the reduction. If it's not stable, usually we use intramedullary QR, like, as you can see here or here on this X-ray. You see the displacement with this flex metacarpal head. The metacarpal head have been reduced with this maneuver and stabilized with this small QR enter at the base of the metacarpal and intramedullary up to the head of the metacarpus. Usually this is done in the OR by the end surgeon. Again, this closed reduction with this maneuver, and by flex the finger, pushing dorsally the head, and pushing dorsally with the finger the fracture, and you have to control the type of reduction. If the reduction is acceptable with no malrotation of the finger and with a stable reduction, then you can only put a splint to protect the healing process. But if it's unstable, then you have to do surgery. So the surgery here is typical for the fifth finger. You make a small opening at the base of the fifth metacarpal here. You make a hole at the base of the metacarpal in order to enter QR, small QR, 12, usually 12 size. And here you can enter at least 2 QR to get stabilization of the reduction. And usually we keep this QR during 6 weeks, and we remove the QR sometime at the consultation. Again, in these cases, because of the malrotation of the finger, you can see on the pictures, it was not, the reduction was not acceptable closely, so we have to do an open reduction, and we choose to stabilize the reduction with small screws, as you can see on the picture and on the X-ray, with a very good result. With no malrotation and with preservation of the motion of the fingers. Here, a more transversal fractures, difficult to reduce. So again, we decided to reduce openly, and because of this transversal type of fractures, and not only an oblique like the previous case, we use a very small plate with usually number 2 millimeters screws here on at the second finger. So we have a different type of treatment possible: only splint, QR, screws, or plate and screws. Specific case at the thumb. At the thumb, you can have fracture at the base of the first metacarpal. This fracture can be extra-articular, like on this picture. When you get an extra-articular fracture, you have to reduce the fracture again to avoid closing of the first commissure. So you have to reduce. And when we, after reduction, usually is quite unstable, so you need to stabilize your reduction. And we use this kind of technique we call the Kappanji technique. That means that you enter distally to QR, curve QR, that is going down proximally inside a fracture fragment. And with this 2 type of QR, you stabilize your reduction. So it's again a percutaneous technique to stabilize a reduction. but you can also use QI to stabilize a reduction. You can use screws, especially when you get an articular fractures. It's more complex than the previous one. It can be partial, that for the Bennett fracture, or it can be total, like in the Rolando type of fractures. And these fractures are very unstable and need to be reduced because it injures the articular joint. And if you do not reduce this type of fracture, you will get malunion of the fracture and loss of motion at the thumb and post-traumatic arthritis. So to get a good diagnosis, you need good view. You need a strict AP view of the thumb and a true lateral view of the thumb to get a perfect look at the fractures. You can, when you are in the OR, you can also do traction fluoroscopy view to look at the possibility of reduction of your fractures. And when you get this type of fracture, usually we stabilize this type of fracture depending on the comminution of the fragment with close reduction and percutaneous spinning, like you can see again on this example, or with an open reduction with a Guéda-Moberg approach. You get direct a view of the joint. You can perfectly reduce the joint, and on the reduced fracture, you can use again these small screws of usually 2 millimeter screws to stabilize your reduction, and you get, as you can see on the X-ray, a perfect reduction, an anatomic reduction of the fracture, and a good stabilization. You need, again, immobilization during usually 4 to 6 weeks. What about phalange fracture? Our phalange fracture are most of the time displaced. They can be extra-articular or intra-articular. The displacement will depend on the situation of the fracture related to the insertion of the tendons. You see here on the middle phalange, there is usually this type of deformation because of the insertion of the extensor tendon on the phalange at the distal part of the medial aspect of the phalange, depending of the location of the fracture. And related to, you see, to the insertion of the flexor tendon, you can have different type of deformation. Again, when you get an extra-articular phalangeal fracture, you have to look for rotational deformity, because the patient cannot live with this kind of deformities, the least tolerable deformity in the fingers. So sometimes assessment can be difficult, but because the patient cannot make a fist, you can assess this trouble of rotation by observing the plane of the fingernails to each other. Yeah, you can see here on the pictures. So if there is this kind of rotational deformity, you need to do a reduction of the fracture. So here some aspect or cases of extra-articular phalangeal fractures. You can see different type. What can we do? What is our guidelines for a phalangeal fracture? If the phalangeal fracture is non-displaced, that means with no malrotation, then body tape, splint, or cast is only that is needed, usually during 4 to 6 weeks. When the phalangeal fracture is displaced, you have to reduce the fracture. If the reduction is stable, then again, you can go for a splint or a cast. If the fracture is displaced, reducible, but still unstable of reduction, then you have to stabilize the reduction with Kirchner wire, or like screw or external fixation. If the fracture is displaced and unreducible, then you need an open reduction and fixation. So here, some type of fracture. This type of fracture has been treated with close reduction and only immobilization with this type of results. In case of stabilization, here, when you have to stabilize a reduction, you can use percutaneous key wire again. When there is a transversal diaphyseal fracture, like on this example, we use this, we call that the Tour Eiffel technique. The Tour Eiffel technique means that you stabilize your reduction with a longitudinal splint, longitudinal QI, longitudinal QR. When you put your longitudinal QR to stabilize the reduction, then you put two oblique QR, and when the two oblique QR are positioned and in good position, then you remove your longitudinal QR, and this is at the end the type of stabilization. So we call that the Tour Eiffel technique. Reduction can be performed with simple traction and correction of the rotational deformity. Here you see the stabilization, percutaneous stabilization, and with longitudinal QR for this small oblique type of fracture. QI can be used also when you have several fractures, like on these different examples. It's always close reduction and fixation. You can see here and on a more complex hand trauma. But we can use nowadays with the improvement of the instrumentation, this type of osteosynthesis, and you can go from 2 millimeter screws down to 1.3 millimeter screws that allowed you to do a perfect stabilization of fracture, whatever the type of phalange involved by the fracture. We can use this in more complex fracture with 2 or more fragments, like on this example, small plate again, with the same type of screws. You can see here the type of reduction. You stabilize your plate at the proximal part of the phalange, then you reduce the phalange and the fracture under the plate, stabilize distally your reduction, and then put your screw all over the plate. So it's a very nice type of surgery. The problem is the extensor tendons that usually go just beneath the plate, and the possibility of adhesion between the tendon and the plate afterward. What about articular phalangeal fracture? We just talk about extra-articular. Articular phalangeal fracture had worse prognosis than the previous one because it involves the joint, and the risk is stiffness and arthritis. Here are the main type of fracture. Type 1 is unicondylar short oblique. Type 2 is unicondylar long oblique. Type 3 is dorsal coronal. Type 4 is volar coronal. Type 5 is bicondylar. And type 6 is very comminuted. We call that triplane type big condylar. So it's the more communicative. Almost all type of these articular fractures are unstable, except maybe the dorsal coronal, but most of the time all the other are unstable, and most of the time need an open reduction and a stabilization. Here, example of this short unicondylar, long oblique, with, you can see at examination, malrotation or rotational deformity of the finger. So this has to be reduced. Usually the reduction is, when you do an open reduction, you do a dorsal approach, and the approach have to deal with the extensor system. So you can go through the extensor system, like here, and to get access to the fracture and reduce and stabilize the fracture, or you can go laterally to related to the tendon system, to the extensor system, to get access to the fracture. If you have to make a disinsertion of the central band of the extensor system, you have to reinsert the central band on an anchor, for example, at the end of the procedure. So there is different way to get access to the fracture related to the extensor tendon system. Then again, you reduce and you stabilize with QY, with screws, with plate, depending of the complexity of the fracture. Here you see more complex fractures that have been exposed, reduce and stabilize with screws. Here again, articular fractures, reduce, open, reduce, and stabilize with screws. Again, screws. The screws, when you use screws, usually because you have done an open reduction, and the reduction is more anatomic that if you use a close reduction, especially for an articular fragment. So I think it's better to do an open reduction for this type of articular fractures than a close reduction. And here it's more complex, this bicondylar type of fracture. We use a small plate with small screws. But in case of very complex fracture with wound problems, with loss of skin substance, for example, we can use also this type of external fixation. You can use very sophisticated external fixator, or you can use very artisanal type of fixator with 2 key wire in each part of the phalange, maintained by a piece of cement. And this is a very cheap external fixators that can be useful in case of complex trauma. Another type of trauma or fractures is the proximal interphalangeal fracture associated with dislocation. So usually when you have a dorsal dislocation, only the volar plate can be avulsed, or the volar plate can be avulsed with a piece of phalangeal. Depend of the size of the piece of bone, the phalangeal can stay stable after reduction, or remain unstable when at least 42% of the articular surface have been involved by the fractures. So you can see here dislocation with only a small piece of bone, stable after reduction. On the other hand, here dislocation with a bigger piece of bone, not so stable after reduction. The reduction can be performed under local anesthesia, as I told you before. Here's the local anesthesia. Here's the reduction performed and the evaluation of the stability after reduction. If there is quite stable reduction, despite of a piece of bone, palmary, but a small piece of bone, then you can use this type of protection, limiting extension of the finger, but allowing the patient to flex the finger. Again, is to avoid a stiffness while protecting the healing process. You can see on these two examples, the patient is allowed to flex the finger, but with these two type of protection, it cannot do a total extension. And when during the healing process, we improve the range of extension every week in order for the patient by 4 weeks to get a total extension without compromising the stability of the joint. When you have a comminution of the base of the intermediate phalange after a dislocation, is very difficult to stabilize sometimes the piece of fragment. And Suzuki in 1993 proposed this type of dynamic external fixation. It's like it's a kind of distraction system that allows the patient to move his joint in order to get a remodeling of the joint surface. So it's a Suzuki system with a QR that had been prepared with a third band between the QR to get the distraction. Other type of system have been proposed, but the principle is to get a distraction system that allow the patient to start motion while protecting the stability of the joint. So again, you can get a different type of lesions, dorsal, palmar, comminution of the articulation. So it's very varied. When you have to get access to the palmar aspect of the finger, you can use a palmar approach. You have to protect the flexor tendon to open the palmar plate and to get access to the bone and to fix the bone. You can use a dorsal approach if the problem is dorsal, or you can use a mid-axial approach that allow you to go dorsally, but also to go palmary if needed. So here are some type of fixation of this type of fractures with mini fragment type of screws. This technique has been proposed for a more complex fractures. It's a type of a cerclage wire technique to get close reduction of the articular surface, as you can see here on these pictures. Something that is quite interesting, and when you have a loss of a piece of bone, it's more than 50% here at the base of the intermediate phalange. You can fix the volar plate into the articulation. We call that the volar plate arthroplasty, to get a smooth motion despite of the loss of piece of bone at the articulation. Usually we fix this type of volar plate with suture through bone or with anchors. So this is a possibility to preserve or to recreate a joint when there is involvement of the joint surface. And finally, this is the more sophisticated type of surgery when you have an involvement, again, of more than 50% of the articular surface, as you can see here on these pictures. We found that the hamate had the same curve and the same form at the base of the intermediate phalange. So you can use a hemi-hamate autograft to recreate the curve and the aspect, the normal aspect of the articular surface of the PIP joint. So it's not too easy, but it has been shown that dorsal hamate have the same radius of curvature as the PIP joint. So it can be used in some specific case when the joint is mostly involved, as we can see here. So after the PIP joints, there is some lesion at the DIP joint. This is specific lesions because when you have a joint fracture dislocation here dorsally, we call that the mallet finger, because on this piece of bone dorsally there is all the extensor system attached on the bone. Thus is not only a fracture, it's an avulsion of a tendon. So dorsally is the mallet fingers, and palmary is, we call that the jersey fingers, usually because you see on the photography, it's related to a traction when during sports, when a player try to stop another player by catching his jersey, and because of the traction, there is a force flexion against resistance that avulses the flexor profundis tendon, and with or without a piece of bone. We will go through these two type of lesion with the problem in the tendons. So after the fracture, we move to the problem of the tendons. So first is the acute digital flexor tendon disruption. So I show you how to test the profundus tendon and the superficialis tendon. You can see again, when there is a wound at the end, the loss of the tenodesis effect, and when the patient, when the finger cannot be flexed with the other finger, that means that in this case, the two tendons are injured. The loss of normal flexion cascade after tendon laceration. So the goal of flexor tendon surgery is to repair and to get early motion. There is a lot of tips and tricks to get good strength to the repair in order to allow early motion without new gap at the tendon. The problem at the flexor system is more often when you get an injured tendon, usually the proximal part of the tendon retract into the palm. So you have to get this proximal tendon into the palm without injuring the digital canal. So we use this type of technique with a small opening into a small approach opening into the palm, and with this type of silastic system, we isolated the proximal part of the tendon proximally, suture to the silicone system, and then retract the tendon into the canal, digital canal up to the trauma, and stabilize the tendon with a needle, as you can see here, and then repair the tendon. There is different type of suture. You can see some of this type of suture, Tsugi, Kessler, Tachima. The principle is to get at least 4 brand suture inside the tendon to get a very strong repair. And at the end of the strong repair, we do a running suture all around the tendon to get more strength to the repair. Again, this type of repair, we need to take the tendon, stabilize the tendon with a needle, and repair the tendon. Here are different type of suture. I use this type of suture with 4 brands into the tendon, then a running suture, as you can see here. Distally, we come back to the jersey finger. When there is some piece of tendon left in the phalange, you can do a direct repair, like here, with the anchor, but most of the time the tendon is avulsed directly from the bone, so you have no more tendon to make a suture. So you need to fix the tendon to the bone with an anchor or with this type of suture through bone. This pull-through button technique have been mostly used for this type of sutures. We can use also mini plate if there is a fracture associated to the avulsed tendon. After repair of tendon in zone 2, we use this type of mobilization with protection to get immediate mobilization of the tendon while protecting the type of suture. We call that the Kleiner type of mobilization. But you can use a more static type of mobilization. You need to protect the finger in a flexion of the MCP, and then you can start to work passively with the flexion of the fingers. And usually you need to keep this type of immobilization during 4 weeks. On the dorsal aspect of the hand, you can find the extensor tendon. Distally, again, if there is an avulsion of the tendon without a bone or with only a small piece of bone, we call that the mallet finger. And you can stabilize only the finger with a splint in extension, as you can see here on the pictures. You can also use a tenodermodesis. That means that you operate the patient, and then, as you can see here, you take the skin, but also the tendon underneath, and make 3 points in order to get a good healing of the tendon to the skin. Also, we can fix the tendon distally with an anchor or with a pulling through type of suture. Depending of the piece of the fragment, is a small fragment with no dislocation, no instability of the distal phalange. The conservative treatment is mandatory, but when there is dislocation of the distal phalange, you need a surgical reduction and stabilization. And we use this type of stabilization you see here with one QR that stabilize the piece of bone and the extensor tendon. Then another QR into the distal phalange, and then you reduce you fractures in extension, and then you make an arthroresis between the to the DIP joint with a longitudinal split, and you need to keep this type of stabilization during usually 6 weeks because of the fractures. This is a different type of possibility of suture for the extensor tendon disruption at the end. You can see here, the more strong is you repair, the more the earlier you can start the mobilization. So it's very important to have a strong repair. Sometimes you miss some tendon substance, or there is some possibility to suture the tendon despite of this loss of substance. You can make a VY type of suture, so you advance here the central band in order to get a good suture of the dorsal aspect of the PIP joint. You can make this type of turn down options of the central aspect here of the tendon, and to recreate the central band. You can use the lateral band to recreate a central band, as you can see on this picture. And this is you can take the half part of the dorsal extensor tendon to recreate again the central band, stabilize here with an anchor. So we have different possibility to recreate a tendon extensor on the dorsal aspect of the PIP joint. This is the type of immobilization we use for traumatic extension tendon repair. So it's an inversion compared to the clinet. We call that the anti-cliner type of immobilization. And we keep this type of immobilization during 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. When there is more proximal lesions, it's more easier because the tendon is larger, and you can do very strong suture without any problems concerning early immobilization. Be careful at the MCP joints, because usually the sagittal band can be injured, and if the sagittal band are injured, then the tendon will sublux ulnarly at the MCP joints with deviation of the finger. So it's very important to repair the tendon, but also at the MCP repair the sagittal band in order to maintain the tendon center on the joint. Vessel repair, this is an emergency. I told you, less than 6 hours to revascularize a joint. It's a microsurgery technique, so we use a microscope or a magnificent loop. We need to suture artery and sometimes vein. And in all cases, even if the finger is not devascularized, suturing a vessel, suturing an artery improves the prognosis in case of nerve repair or tendon repair. So there is a specific technique. Maybe you know, you have to prepare your artery, you have to clean your artery with anticoagulation, and you have to repair your artery with a very systematic technique using a very small suture, 8.0 or most of the time 9.0 or 10.0 at the finger. In case of loss of artery substance, you can use a palmar vein to make a pontage at the finger. Nerve repair, again, is very important. We use, again, microsurgery technique. Usually we use 8.0 type of suture for the big nerves, like the median nerve, and at the fingers is 9.0 suture, sometimes 10.0, and we use most of the time an epineural type of suture. Nail looks like not important, but it can be important because when you have a trauma at the nail, you can have a dystrophic nail by the hand. So it's very important to look at the nail bed to repair a nail bed injury if there is one injury. If you have an hematoma, you need to evacuate the hematoma. When this is small, you can use a brush or a QR to evacuate the hematoma. If there is a big hematoma, it's you have to remove the nail, suture the bed of the nail, and reposition the nail and stabilize the nail with sutures. Here you have a distal finger injury with distal fractures. So reducing the nail usually reduce your fractures, but sometimes it's not stable enough. So you can use this type of stabilization with a needle of mostly this type of stabilization with a QR, stabilizing the fracture, then suturing the bed length and repositioning the nail on the bed. Amputation, depending of the localization of the amputation, zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Zone 1, you can preserve the nail and the local flap will be enough to get good healing. Zone 2, nail preservation must be discussed. Zone 3, there is no possibility to preserve the nail, and we have to discuss the preservation of the distal phalange plus local flap with nail sterilization. Zone 4, preservation of the distal phalange must be discussed, and zone 5, you have to make an amputation at the head of the intermediate phalange. And here, it's the technique of amputation at the end of the intermediate phalange, where you have to remodel the distal aspect of the intermediate phalange. You have to section the flexor tendon, but also the collateral nerve, and then usually you can close easily the wound. Skin coverage, so depending, we have also a lot of possibility: direct healing, skin graft, local flap, pediculator knot, local regional pedicular flap, or a distant flap. So this is example of distal wound without exposition of the bone. So when the bone is not exposed into the bone, you can go for a direct healing only with dressing. And here's the result, at distance after only dressing on this type of wound. Here is a little more complex. So we use only skin graft with this result at the end. So it's quite functional and not too bad aesthetically. For a distal amputation, usually transversal, you can use, when the bone is exposed, you need to cover the bone. So you can use a local flap. This is the most used flap distally. This is an atazoid flap. It's a V type of flap that is advanced dorsally and stabilized with a needle into the phalange with this type of result at the end. Another possibility is the cutler. It's a hemi-cutler. It's two hemi flap laterally that cover the distal part of the phalange with this result by the end. More complex is if it's not distal, it's proximal. You can use a skin graft. You can use advanced flap, like here at the dorsal aspect of the finger. Here we can advance a type of piece of skin in order to cover the injured lesions, and put a small skin graft at the level of the advancement. Here, different possibility to cover the wound. Here you can see this patient. Specifically for the thumb, when you have this kind of loss of substance, loss of skin substance, and you don't want to make an amputation of the distal part of the thumb, you can advance all the palmar aspect of the skin. We call that the Moberg flap. The problem of the Moberg flap is that you need to keep the finger flexed, and you can have some difficulty there by the end to extend your finger. But the aspect at the end is quite nice. Here is another type of flap. It's an O'Brien flap. So it's the same as a Moberg flap, but here you have to dissect all the pedicles and advance the flap in order to avoid this type of limitation of flexion. But it's more complex, this one. You can use local regional pedicular flap, but you need to dissect again all the pedicle laterally to advance the type of flap. This is for the long fingers. You can use a crow finger slap, especially when you have loss of substance as a dorsal aspect of the fingers. You can see here. You can use advanced flap or rotational flaps, or Z type of flap, and to cover a lesion at the dorsal aspect of the hand. Skin graft usually is harvested from the medial aspect of the arm. For more complex cases, you can you a distance flap pedicle, like the growing flap or the McGregor flap, as you know. The problem is you need to keep the hand into the flap at least for 4 weeks before cutting the skin and leaving the hand free. So sometimes there is some problem of stiffness of the hand, but it's a very reproducible flap. Here some example of a distance flap ediculated with a McGregor for these very complex cases. Or you have more sophisticated flap. This flap is a flap on the radial head, on the radial artery. We call that the Chinese flap. But you have to sacrifice the radial artery, and this flap is harvested from the posterior interosseous artery. And so again, it can be used for dorsal aspect, dorsal lesion of the hand. And finally, for big loss of substance, you can use a distant free flap, non-pediculated, but it's more complex. So for conclude, you see there is a lot of various type of lesion at the end. So your examination must be systematic. So you need a clinical systematic exam, not to see all the lesions and to take care of all type of lesions that the patient can present with a hand trauma. The patient must be prepared. Surgical exploration is needed for all type of wound on the neurovascular and tendon pathway. We have to be fair of stiffness and infection. Surgeon specialists in hand surgery have to do this type of surgery, but we need also usually a specialized physiotherapist in order to get the better result as possible, and also the cooperation of the patient. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Pierre.
Thank you very much, Professor Pierre. You